You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and here we are, and I mean I'm here with my man, Eric.
Oh, yeah, my man.
Yeah, you're my man. We are here to do something we haven't done on the YouTube channel yet. We have done this on our podcast a couple
Many
times, but yeah, it is the $25 do or die pull list, and it's one of those things where it kind of gives you the idea of what books that we like with a twist, because you kind of have to finagle all the books that you can fit on a pull list for $25 or less. So
just think about that. You're a comic book fan in today's day and age, and all you have is $25 every month to spend on your favorite DC Comics list. And what are you going to do with that money? That's the big question right now.
Yeah, that is. And when we do this, we've gone through it over the years. Yeah, exactly. We've gone through the years where there have been times where it's a struggle. Like, oh my God, I like 10 books and I got to narrow it down. But when you have books that are $3.99, $4.99, even more, that throws in a wrench. But we've had times where we couldn't even fill the pull list. There was a time when we were doing it.
Why can't they still hold the line at $2.99? Make things a whole lot easier.
Best. When we started, and when prices had increased, we had people say, well, why don't you go up to like $35 or whatever? And we're like, no, this is just it, $25. We're going to keep with it. And like I said, it's one of those things that, also give you an idea of what books we like. And while we're doing this, it'd be cool if everybody gives us their $25 do or die pull list in the comments. And again, the rules are you have $25. You have to, get as many books you got over. You have to spend, under. I actually have some money left. I like to try to really get it to the point. You actually told me you have it like right on the money. You just have that extra cents left for these.
6 cents left.
Yeah, I end up with money left, which drives me nuts, but that's part of the game as well, trying to get those in. And I'll tell you when we get to me what I could drop and add, but I'm going to stick with mine. Not my favorite. The last time we did this on the podcast, I said to you, I had the ultimate airtight list. This one's not, but it's that weird play. Maybe we do this again in a couple of months, 6 months or so when we have other books, and maybe I'll have airtight, but we're going to start with you, Eric. You got $25. What would be on your pull list?
My first book on my pull list is Action Comics, coming in at $4.99. And right now, Jason Aaron has impressed me so much with his first issue of Action Comics, as well as his Batman Award, that I think that I have to have this on this list, because even though I hate Bizarro talk, and I'm sure we're going to bound to get a bunch of Bizarro talk throughout his story arc right now, I need to be a part of this Action Comics because it looks like he's taking Superman in a different direction, and with Bizarro, something we haven't seen in a long time, if not ever. So I'm like, that needed to be on my list first and foremost.
Yeah, and it's weird, too, if people don't know. I actually think you're more of a fan of the Superman Rogues Gallery than actually Superman. I mean, you love Cyborg Superman. You love Metallo, right? Metallo. You love them all. Parasite. But yeah, it's Lex Luthor. Cool deal. When we get to mine, it's one thing that usually we have, and one thing that's usually a given. Me and you usually have one of the main Batman books, Batman or Detective Comics. It kind of shows here because, just as a spoiler, neither of us have Detective or Batman on the list, but we kind of do have these Superman books. They did end up saying at the beginning of the Dawn of DC that it was going to be Superman-centric. And one of the things that I'm keeping in mind is there's some cool events coming up with the Superman book. So I kind of keep that in mind when I was getting mine. But
Brainiac, he's coming, Jim.
He is. Now, you keep going, because I don't know. Maybe I have Action Comics too. Who knows, Eric? We'll see when we get to mine.
You do not have Action Comics. But up next on my list that I know you have on your list, because, again, another Jason Aaron book, because this guy's just coming into DC just impressing the hell out of me, because I'm not really familiar with him because I'm not a Marvel Comics reader. But him coming in doing these things, they really are to the point where I'm like, I need to have Jason Aaron, whatever he's doing, on my list right now, at least. That's what it feels like. But Batman Off-World, coming in at $3.99, is the next one on my list, because while I was a little apprehensive about it at first, the idea of like what it felt like a Batman year 2 shooting off into space to figure out how to take on alien threats, if he ever should have to take on alien threats, felt a little weird, but I'm having so much fun with the supporting cast of that book, as well as Batman doing Batman things, but in space in a whole new way you haven't seen him before, really.
Yeah, Punchbot, we love. Punchbot, R.I.P. I have a song for Punchbot that will play the next deal, and I do believe that we get the next issue next week. When we have an annuals week, they're throwing that out, which we really like Batman Off-World. I'll even tell you, I have it on my list too, and it's such a weird thing. I said to you, oh my God, Jason Aaron, I haven't liked anything really of the past couple years that he's done at Marvel. I was really worried. He came over and they're like, okay, he's going to do this first Batman story that he's ever done. Okay. And me and you really liked it. And then when Action came out, we were upset. Phil Kennedy Johnson thought that. And then you're like, you know what? This is pretty good. You can still be upset. We said it when we talked about it on the podcast. You can still be upset about it. But it's such a weird thing of if you went back 6 months, ago and said to me, oh, by the way, you're going to do a $25 do or die. But listen, you and Eric are going to be raving about Jason Aaron. And I would never have thought it because I was so done with him. That Avengers run was awful. So the Punisher stuff, like everything that he did, and it seems like he kind of just needed to get some sort of spark going and something new. And I think that's what you kind of have the fear of if you do sign exclusive to and he was exclusive for a very long time over at Marvel, and you kind of go through the characters and maybe you want a little bit different play. But it shocks me that you have both Jason Aaron books.
It shocked me as well. I'm like, you know what? These are two really good books.
Yeah. So what is your next book?
Batman, Superman, World's Finest, coming in at $3.99. Love him or hate him, Mark Waid is giving us some really good Superman and Batman stories while tying into some classics with Kingdom Come currently in this run. And it's just one of those books where it's out of continuity. You could even say it might be Elseworld hyper time because things don't really add up with the idea of a post-crisis world in this time frame. But you know what? It can still be fun and it looks great each and every month.
Yeah, and we know that people are down for certain reasons with Mark Waid, but I have it on my list too when we get to mine. And
it's just a good comic.
Well, here we go. I'm going to prove to everybody that you really do like these books because you said Batman, Superman, World's Finest. It's a little like continuity askew. They try to play it in, and that drives you nuts usually. It does, but it's still on it. And Batman Offworld, you tried to make a time. It wasn't working very well in your head. It wasn't connecting completely. You have to have fun with it.
I'm a bit of a fickle mushhead. I can't help it.
Not that it was like, oh my God, this showed up and threw that off. It felt like a weird timing that you were saying it, but they're both on your list. So
it's like, all right, here's a post-crisis world where the Green Lantern, for some reason, isn't affected by yellow. He has current recharge capabilities with his ring. Supergirl's still alive for some reason, and Billy Bats and Shazam is the same age as he is in current continuity. You're throwing in really cool characters and doing fun things with them, but in the back of my mind, it still drives me nuts each and every issue, but I can still bypass that and have a good time with the current story being told, especially because at this point in time, I need to know how we fix whatever we're doing in the current story Kingdom Come related to make sure the Kingdom Come still happens the way we know it to happen.
Yeah, and you don't have to, yell at us in the comments about, well, it has to be in continuity because it did the Nezha stuff and the Lesnar.
And that's the big thing in my mind.
We understand that. So it just ends up where it's kind of like, it's not
feel
exactly a square peg in a round hole, but it's not exactly round.
A post-crisis world where Dick Grayson is still Robin. That throws me off.
Yeah. A lot of the timing of it throws off. So what are you at now? How much money have you spent so far?
Right now, I have no idea how much money I spent so far because I just put all these together. I'll tell you, math is hard sometimes. There's
how
a bunch
many
of
books
numbers
do you have left?
Right now, I have 3 books left. My next book up is Justice Society of America, coming in at $3.99. And I'm just really upset that this book looks like it's going to be just a maxi series because Jeff John has gone off to do some ghost machining of his own. And I'm just afraid that if you do pick up, it's not going to have the same zeal as it has currently with the idea of where the story's going to go with the new Golden Age, bringing the Golden Age DC characters into current continuity, making sure they're sticking around after Doomsday Clock, and making sure that those stories feel worthwhile with bringing Helena Wayne from the future, and even the idea of her putting together what would be her JSA team 20 years in the future. It's just, there's a lot going on here, and each and every issue, I might have the problem where it seems like we're stacking too many things on top of each other without resolving enough things to the point where we're getting on with the series. I'm like, will we have enough time to wrap all of this up in a nice little bow? I don't know, but right now I'm having a good time with what we got here, and like World's Finest, each and every issue looks great.
Yeah, it does look great. Justice Society almost made my list. I ended up where I was trying to finagle some things, and I'll tell everybody who's never seen us do this or heard us do this before, I sometimes bend the rules. I sometimes do crazy stuff.
Usually bend the rules.
I'll add a book that isn't going to be coming out for a month. I'll be like, well, I'm going to keep this money for that and do that. But I'm just
disconnecting.
I was really trying to get JSA on my list, and I would have to drop a book. And I kept saying, because I have 2 $4.99 books when we get to it. If you drop, the way that it goes, if I drop one of those, I can actually add 2 $3.99 books. So it's drop one, add two, and I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't. And so I kind of left that, and I have like an honorable mention, like a bin down at the bottom, and JSA is on there, and mainly because you said, I don't know what's going to happen after that 12th issue. Is it going to continue? And so I don't even know. And is it going to end up ending well because of all that stuff? So I kept it off. But that was really a tough one.
You and I have been talking about the idea, well, if Jeff Johns does leave and they want to continue the JSA series, maybe Robert Venditti can come in and do this. But even with what we had this week with the Beast World Tour Star City, we have him doing a JSA type story, and it just seemed a little too goofy for what I've been experiencing and enjoying from the JSA lately. So, like, if the idea of him taking that into what he would do, I'm like, I don't know if I want that anymore.
The only thing that I can say, because you're talking about the tie-in for Beast World, I think that maybe a lot of those things you don't have a lot to work with. And so he went, because most people...
Like, oh, you think this story's goofy with these animal-human hybrids that come from a Beast Boy Garo. Yeah, you got some problems coming. There's a lot of baggage. I think that there might
be problems, and maybe Venditti's like, what am I going to do here? But most people said, if Jeff Johns, well, he is leaving. He's already left. But if it does continue, most people say, get Venditti and Jeremy Adams. Maybe combine, do that, go forward. Who knows? Who knows how it is? But Venditti, people like, but... Like I was going to mention, like, by the way, Eric really hated that tie-in story this week from Venditti, but it was so goofy. I can't say anything bad or different because he was kind of thrown in there. What's your next book?
Well, the thing is, if you are mad that I picked Action Comics with Jason Aaron because of that run going on now, like, what about Philip Kennedy Johnson? Well, I haven't left him behind because I made sure to get Philip Kennedy Johnson on this list with Green Lantern War Journal coming in at $3.99 an issue. And the thing about this is for this list, I had to pick between two Green Lantern books, and I'm a big Green Lantern fan. Right now, you have John Stewart doing some stuff over here, and you have Hal Jordan doing some stuff over here, and people are loving Jeremy Adams' run on Green Lantern currently. But when I look at that book and I think to myself, like, what is this about? It's Hal Jordan, every issue having construct battles, but also the emotional spectrum's wonky. And we're very far into that series, what feels like. And right now, it's just, hey, the emotional spectrum's wonky, and we don't know how, why, when, why, all these different things. And I'm like, that bothers me. Like, I want to love that book because I love Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns in general, even though I'm a Kyle guy. But John Stewart is picking up all of these loose ends of Green Lantern lore, whether it be his, mortal guardianship back in, Green Lantern Mosaic, going into stuff that we just had in Dark Crisis, even going into the series. And now, in the last issue of War Journal, we're bringing out Dark Star stuff from his history. I'm like, you are really doing some heavy lifting here with doing Green Lantern lore with John Stewart. And while I'm upset that you put him back in a ring because he had awesome powers on his own, I still need to see where the story goes for, good or ill. Like, this is the most Green Lantern story we're getting right now.
And that was the thing. We already mentioned that neither of us have Batman or Detective Comics. That's crazy. I almost had two Green Lantern books, and you being a huge Green Lantern fan, I actually expected you to have both. But I know when we talk about it, when it comes up in the podcast, you are down a bit, not down on the Jeremy Adams Green Lantern. You're just waiting for something big to happen. So I know you like the war. It's such a weird thing. I don't know that there'd be that many people out there that if they had to pick between the two, they would take War General. I was like, almost, but I didn't want to drop Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern to add War Journal because then I'd want the Green Lantern back, but I needed, it's crazy. When I get to mine, I'll explain more.
Also because this is our list, we get to play it. We're actual friends as kids hanging out with each other's house. So if I pick up these books, you get to read them as well.
That used to be my cheat. Where I'll get this and then you tell me about that and we'll do that. But yeah, really my list really had problems because I wanted to add War Journal, and that is kind of a shocker because I wasn't liking it at first.
Oh, I never
You convinced me to like it. You convinced me to like it, and it's kind of dumbed down for me the last couple of issues, and I'm really enjoying it.
It feels almost like a bit of a reset for new readers to come in and understand what's going on. So I could see
or
new
old
people coming in for that.
readers, right?
Yeah,
like me,
too.
Because it was wonky and it was a tough way to get people on board, even the backups in the Green Lantern. Like, that would have been great still if they continued the bad. Then we'll get the best of both worlds.
To get into this, I just feel there's a lot of homework to understand between Mosaic, Jeffrey Thorne's Green Lantern run, into the Dark Crisis tie-in, Worlds Without a Justice League Green Lantern, into the Green Lantern backups to set up this story, and then finally Green Lantern War Journal. In my mind, you need all of that to really have a full comprehension of what's happening.
And you say that's a lot of work, right?
It is.
We know this. It's also not great work. That Jeffrey Thorne shit sucked. It sucked, so it's tough, right?
Mosaic's almost impossible to find online unless you're doing some R-ing, but besides that, it's like it's not a great book in my mind either. Even though you put it on a pedestal, like for some reason, I never for decades people put this story on a pedestal. I'm like, I never understood why, but I guess if you've read it, you're coming up Millhouse right now because you understand some stuff that other people aren't.
Exactly, and you have one book, I would guess, left, right?
I do have one book left at $3.99 to finish out my list. I have Green Arrow, and honestly, because I'm a huge Green Arrow fan, I love seeing the Oliver Queen coming back with the entire Green Arrow family, and the idea that there's some big things going on in the background, even outside of Amanda Waller and whatever our big event's going to be during the summer. But just the idea that we have the character of Parallax show up, and not like the entity, and not even Hal Jordan, reminiscing on his times during Hal Jordan's time as Parallax. But we have the Parallax that is out of time, the Hal Jordan out of time from Convergence, is still in the background that Joshua Williamson somehow remembered, because I thought you and I were the only one who remembered that he was still out and about doing stuff. Time. But he showed up, and we thought maybe even in this Green Arrow, and that was just some kind of weird illusion, hallucination that Oliver Queen was having. But when he said it to Hal Jordan, hey, there's Parallax still out there, and Hal Jordan said, yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. I'm like, you are doing big things. And even the idea that the big event coming up, they say that this is 30 years in the making. And what came out 30 years ago? Well, Zero Hour came out 30 years ago, and Parallax was the big bad behind that whole thing. So I think that this might be one of the biggest books that DC's putting out right now, but on the low, where nobody really understands that, besides for just a look. If you're a Green Arrow fan and just want to see some Oliver Queen shooting arrows and taking names, I'm right there with you. But I think there's some big things in the background here that they're not actually pushing as hard as they could, in my mind.
And that's cool. The thing about the Green Arrow book, I want to like it more.
Even with this week, with Arsenal being a part of the Dream Team Suicide Squad, you got some good synergy going there.
Yeah, so my whole thing with Green Arrow is almost like what you said about Green Lantern. It's on my, I have a bullpen that I'm waiting to pull from. Okay, Green Arrow goes better, I'll pull it, but it hasn't been doing the thing yet. It's kind of been dragging its feet. Bringing back Oliver was very wonky.
Oh yeah, they fudged the hell out of that to get that back.
Yeah, so now we're going forward, and it still doesn't feel like it's going forward fast enough for me, but it is on my almost list. There's a couple others too that I'll mention when I go through that are on my kind of bullpen list that can kind of come in, but my list, because I think you only have one miniseries, right? The Batman Off-World.
Oh, yeah.
Is that? Oh, well, you also have the JSA that you don't know if that's going to continue. Yeah. So when we go into this, that's the other thing to keep in mind when you're going through things. You're like, okay, well, I'm because Jay Garrick, the Flash. I'll start my list now. That's your list.
Well, before you start your list right there, I came in at $24.94 for my total for the $25 do or die pull list.
Son of a gun! I get so angry because I have gotten such airtight lists the last couple of times. Then we go to do this on YouTube. I'm like, I have $3 afterward. I don't want $3.
What do you do with $3?
I don't know. I'm going to get a Happy Meal.
Is there some digital titles you can buy?
I looked. I actually thought, and I'm like, I couldn't find the price. Somebody could tell me, but I actually thought, well, maybe I'll get that Superman 78, that new one. But I'm like, yeah, I tried to find things. It's really tough to find things online. Yeah, it's nothing that I would add. Some people like it, but my whole deal, I'll just start with what I said. I have Jay Garrick the Flash at $3.99 to start my pull list. It's weird when you're doing these things and you say, I have Jay Garrick the Flash, but I don't have the JSA book. But I like the idea that they kind of aren't connected, but they kind of might be working towards something.
And even if they're not, you get Judy Garrick to boom, and pretty much I feel like that's what you're there for. And I agree, because that's what I'm there for, too.
Yeah, and I love it. And that was the second book that popped in my mind for this. And it's a book that not everybody is reading, but I think most people that are reading really like it. I really, really like it. You didn't like the last issue as much, where we had that kind of retcon, deal of the origin.
There was fun aspects to bring back the first issue of Flash Comics back in 39 or 40, whenever that first came out. Showing that, and then also showing behind the scenes stuff that happened right after the panel ended. That was really cool, and I really appreciated seeing all that. But just kind of the weird things to get, the power set for Judy Garrick and even Jay Garrick with the metahuman gene and being separated from what feels like the Speed Force. I just didn't really find myself loving that aspect so much. I'm still liking the overall story because I want to see more of Dr. Elemental, but even characters like that, it's and then people forgot about Dr. Elemental because Judy Garrick disappeared. I'm sitting back here well, why'd that happen?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with it, but I really like it. I actually have fun with each issue, so I put that on my list.
If you were a fan of Stargirl, The Lost Children, feels like Jay Garrick, The Flash, and JSA are books that will be right up your alley for continuing on with that story.
And Jeremy Adams, you kind of keep waiting for some bomb. Okay, these were good, this was good. You might say Green Lantern hasn't started yet, but it still isn't a bomb. I really like him. He's one of my favorite writers that are out there right now. But I'll get to my big book. My big one that started out the pull list that I kind of based everything off of too is Superman. You put Action Comics. I put Superman.
I really want Superman too. Even though that book pisses me off, I feel like I want to be reading that book, especially with the Brainiac story coming down the line. And just
that's the big thing.
Lena Luthor, the Brainiac Lex Luthor daughter that we have there, she's like feels like a standout character that hasn't really hit the spotlight yet, and I keep waiting each issue for it because she's so cool and I want to know more about her.
It also has Lex. It has the Super Lex stuff. I
Super
really
Corp, which I thought's really
Super
cool.
Corp. So I still don't think that all the pieces have come together, but if they do or when they do, it's going to be really good. And as we said earlier, to joke around, when the big event comes, I'll just ask you what happened in Action Comics.
And I'll ask you what happened with Brainiac.
And so I was almost going to add Action Comics, but I didn't want to go that big with just Superman. You know, you're almost there, almost half the thing there. So my other $4.99 book is Green Lantern, Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern. Again, counting that Jeremy Adams is going to, once we get this whole figure thing out with the United Planets, and it seems like they are kind of handcuffed a bit, which happens all the time. It drives me nuts. It happened with Jeffrey Thorne, where, lights out again. Lights out. They're never on. And so when you do this, right? So why do they always have to do this? I just want to have a Green Lantern core book where they're just going around.
Well, that's the thing, too, because you have books that come out like this that put out this big idea, right? And like even the idea, let's take it back to the idea of, the Rock of Eternity's messed up, that's screwing up Billy Batson's powers, but Black Adam over there, he's fine for whatever reason. So you never have that synergy that goes across. Right now, it seems like everybody's kind of fine in the Green Lantern War Journal, but over in the Jeremy Adams Green Lantern run, there's something wonky with the emotional spectrum, but we're not really seeing that anywhere else.
Yeah, so we have to let it play out. And the other big book, and it kind of feels like it's going to start to have synergy with the War Journal, with Green Lantern War Journal. And that's why I wanted to add that in, but because of the other things, because my next book, you talked about it, you added on your pull list, is Batman Offworld. I love those first two issues.
And that
great.
Just gets to do whatever it wants, and I'm fine with that. You be you, Offworld, because I'm enjoying it so far.
Oh, and the cast, like you said, Punchbot, it's just so fun. And it's one of those things that took us by surprise completely. And we've been doing our podcast for 10 years now, over 10 years, or almost 10 years, the website for 10 years. We have gone through a lot of slog, but there's few and far between that all of a sudden it actually surprises us. The idea of, holy crap, like I didn't think this. And that was one of them. It really, we were giggling. I mean, we were having some fun. I really, really like. I can't wait for the next issue.
Songs about it.
Oh my God, songs! It's so good. It was so fun. I like the first issue of Action Comics with Jason Aaron. I just need more than that one issue to maybe say, okay, if it starts it, I'm really going to have to start finagling.
There's just a mystery behind that story that I need to know more of that's driving me nuts, because I'm telling you, it's a Bizarro-centric story where people are putting people off like, oh my God, you get rid of Philip Kennedy Johnson for a Bizarro story? I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of with you there, but even though Bizarro is, in my opinion, a huge big bad of Superman that you want to see, it's just a Bizarro talk always throws me off, but there's something wonky right now, and it has to do with the multiverse, which elevates the story in general. You add a Sorcerer Bizarro to the whole thing that's a different Bizarro than you've ever seen, and also a Bizarro City, and I say city, I want to know how far this spell goes, where all Metropolis and Bizarros were recreating, a Bizarro Earth. I'm like, there's something big here. It might not be lasting a long time, but maybe it's lasting for a good time.
But, it goes to Gotham, and then Batman's there. I'm the day. I don't know what it's opposite deal would be.
Me am the day.
I don't know if, I can't remember if we had the Action Comics, that first issue, if it was on our Patreon Spotlight or on the regular show. Because the thing is, while we were going through that, each time I said, well, everybody's making fun of Bizarro because he's a joke, and you have to keep saying, he's not a joke. I'm like, but they think
drives me nuts, but he's not a joke.
Like, they think he is. And they're like, he's not a joke. He's great. But yeah, like I said, I actually do think that you like the Rogues Gallery more than actually Superman.
It's so crazy because you have two Bizarros. You have the Clone Bizarro and you have Bizarro World Bizarro, Bizarro number one. I'm all for the Clone Bizarro. Because he always drives me nuts whenever we get, Bizarro number one showing up doing his Bizarro type, because I'm like, man, I gotta read this. But you know what? I would happily read Action Comics at 1061 all over again, because I had a great time reading it.
And it was fun. They even throw in backwards word magic that drives me nuts to then give us regular talking Bizarro.
You did it.
So
you got rid of Bizarro talk.
It was so crazy. And, just to talk more about that, Jason Aaron also did what a lot of people try to do when they come to a different company, show that you know the character and come up with something kind of unique, a little twist. And he came up with that magic overpowers. That was pretty cool. We really liked it. My last book, because
Bizarro
I said
absorbs magic. He's not weakened by it. It makes him more powerful.
Yeah. My last book is one you already had as well. But it leaves me $3. Since I'll talk about that in a second. But it's Batman Superman World's Finest. And just with Dan Mora on art and the story, whether you hate people, don't hate people, it is a solid pick. It's one of those where it's almost like a given that you're at least going to enjoy the issue at some point because of the art, just that. But the stories themselves have been fun. It almost
feels like, too, that, like, besides for events right now, you're not seeing a majority of, like, the DC Comics heroes. We don't have a Justice League right now. The Titans have taken over that. So if you want to get a large cast of heroes working together, it's going to be from that book right now because you're going to get everybody in the kitchen sink thrown at you.
We did. We had, Doom Patrol very early. We're like, what the heck's going on? We went through. Now, you say that, Eric, just as a little bit of an aside. The rumor on the streets is that the Justice League will be coming back this summer by Mark Waid and Dan Morris. So that's a crazy deal. And Dan Mora just drawing is going to be great.
I don't know if that means this book goes to the wayside, but it's a good trade-off.
Well, and here's where I had my problems. I wanted to add War Journal. I said that. But to do that, I'd have to either get rid of Green Lantern or Superman. So then I started saying, okay, because you get 2 for 1 there. So I went through the other books, and just to point out some other books that neither of us have, but can get better, but one of them, Shazam. Uh-huh. We've been having fun with it. The problem is that they already announced that Mark Waid and Dan Mora are going to be off that book soon, because that's when they said, we're going to be off it, and we're going to be doing something bigger, which seems to be that Justice League. Yep. So I'm like, I can't add that. So then I have Green Arrow, which you have. And I'm like,
that's the thing is, people love that book because it's fun, but right now it's more fun than substance. And I need both.
Yeah. So other books that I would add.
Captain Marvel is one of my favorite heroes of all time. It was like one of the first things I actually wrote it out and even gave myself an exclamation point to put on here for my own notes because that's how I want to write it out. But I'm like, no, I can't have this on there, even though he's one of my favorite heroes because I'd rather have a better story than all the fun that they're trying to give me with T-Rex invasions.
When I'm saying this, if I was going to drop one of my $4.99 books, the Superman or Green, it would be Green Lantern because the big stuff is going through Superman. But I ended up well, would I add Green Arrow? And you have it on your list. And I thought, well, it hasn't been hitting for me 100%. So I'll keep that on the side. But my other one that I don't even like, I don't like this book, but I'm sitting there saying it has to get better and it can get better and it should get better. People had it on their end of year best of it. Birds of Prey. That book is not good, but I just keep, but that's maybe. The thing. I don't
maybe
say
2024 is the year for the Birds of Prey.
I don't sit there and say, oh my God, that Speed Force book, it may get better. No, I wouldn't say. But Birds of Prey, I like Kelly Thompson. A lot of people don't like her as much. I like her. It's just this team and this intro story going to Themyscira. It didn't make any sense. It was convoluted.
No. Look, bring Sin back all you want in the main continuity. I'm all for that. Just do it in a better way.
And so when you talk about stuff that, you said even War Journal, this could be, or Green Arrow, it could be the big book. You could just switch and they're going to switch the team up Birds of Prey. That might just be the key. I hope they keep Sin because we really like her, but they're talking about Barbara Gordon coming on, maybe Harley going off. And I'm like, all right, you start to switch this and give me a good story, not just a story that seems, What's that?
Bring Red Canary and give her some training to make her a worthwhile hero to make sure, anybody will actually care about the character. No, I'm just saying, though, the character is sitting there, you introduce a new character during Dark Crisis, doesn't make any sense for that character to survive. And now she's been trickling in here and there, but it's still the same character and does not deserve to be a superhero. Give me a reason to care about Red Canary if you want to keep pushing her, and Birds of Prey would be the book to do that.
It would be the book because of her connection with Black Canary, with Dinah. I'm starting to think when you say that, again, now we're just talking about Birds of Prey that's on neither of our list, but you could almost play that.
Could be in the future.
You could talk about that JSA style of, okay, let's get some of those young heroes. They'll start training with the deal, have a rotating cast would be pretty cool. And so those are the things on the side. Because I was going through the $3.99 books, trying to get that one. I needed to get another book that I'm like, oh my God, I have to have that. Okay, I'll get rid of Green Lantern. And I never found that. There's books that are almost there. And then there's stuff like Titans. Then Nightwing that I'm down on, and that's $4.99.
Taylor stuff right now is just so. It's just so nothing important. I'm going to tell you, you have events going on right now, but for some reason, like when the characters are just doing their everyday adventures, even in Nightwing and stuff like that, nothing feels like it's important. The characters always feel less than they actually should in my mind. That's right now. Things could always change, but like I'm not getting the substance out of either of those Taylor books.
And people like them, obviously, but
like I like Beast World right now, but the other, like the Titans and the Nightwing, I just don't think it's up to that, like, you know, what you want it to be for those kind of books.
So when people start, and that's the fun of arguing about these, not fighting, but just the fun arguing, where if somebody said, "Oh, you have to have Nightwing," the problem is Nightwing's a $4.99 book, so I'd have to take
and that
something
backup
off.
Is not worth it.
And no, and I like every book on my pull list more than Nightwing, so I couldn't do that. But one book I want to point out, I'm going through things and I'm like, oh my God, you know what? I like that Batman and Robin last issue. I haven't loved the series, but last issue, it's kind of like a manga. I'm in, soccer
the manga
team.
thing does not grab you the way it grabs you.
No, it doesn't grab you as grabs me. So I'm like, $4.99. I'm like, what is going on with that? Like, for that, I know Batman's in the title, and it's Batman and Robin, but still, that's not a $4.99 book.
It's a Batman and Robin book. I would be happy to pay $4.99 for a Batman and Robin book because it's one of my favorite titles. The idea of it alone, Batman and Robin teamed up doing Batman and Robin dynamic duo stuff, I'm there for it. It's just the dynamic duo stuff we've gotten so far, not worth it. Not worth the $2.99 as far as I'm concerned.
And I'll tell you, I've said this every time we do this. Shush. Every time we do this do or die pull list, I say it. I say, you need a Batman book. Like, it feels weird to me to have a DC pull list without a Batman book. That's what I'm talking Batman or Detective.
And I got World's Finest. That's good enough for me right now.
Yeah, so Ram V's run of Detective will be ending in a little bit.
What,
he has a bunch of issues. Like 8 or 9 issues left. I think it is 8 after this week. I can hold tight and maybe see what's coming on after that. But I think by then, I'll already have Jay Garrick. The Flash is off. Batman Off-World is done. So I'll be able to add books. And the first couple books I'm adding are Action Comics and Green Lantern War Journal. I know now.
That's the problem, too. You want to have a Batman book on there. I love having Batman, just a regular title, on my list. But right now, Zura and R, and then a Joker Year One is not good putting that on that list.
No.
Especially for how far we've taken it.
It is the thing. When you only have $25, the things have to hit. They have to be the idea of, even you, Green Arrow, you think it's going to be very important. That's why I put them there. And you're enjoying it. You love the characters. So do I. So we have all that. If they end up announcing an Aquaman book, I don't think that would sway you at all, but it might sway me.
I do love Aquaman too, though. It depends on what happens with it.
A Justice League book, that'd be crazy. And, some of these others, some people might even throw in some of the Black Label stuff. But when you do this, if you haven't done it before, you'll realize very quickly, adding an expensive book throws things off completely. At one point, me and you were talking like Urban Legends or The Brave and the Bold. You can't put it on. You cannot put those on. It's impossible. You'll get nothing.
Well, that's the thing. Is the idea is if you want to trade up everything else you can get for an $8.99 Batman Brave and Bold book, you do you. But I just don't think with all those other stories, those stories are not worth it.
No, they're not worth it. They're not worth it.
Better things other places.
So those are my things. And it's
funny,
for the
Storm Watch.
Yeah, as I was going through these, I was also looking would I put the out? No, I wouldn't put the Outsiders on there.
No, I don't know anybody who would.
And I told you, and we talked about this before, there are a lot of mini-series that have just ended or are ending very soon, and not a lot of things replacing them from the solicits. So there's going to be some freed up space
DC's
coming
Ultimates.
Up. Yeah, so they're going. Yeah, that's the big rumor. So we'll see how that all plays out.
A bit.
And the other thing, since we're at the end of the Beast World, sometimes when we do this, I might have put the main Beast World book in, but we're already at the end, so I didn't put it. But
next
I
week it's over, and it feels weird to do that to me. For somebody, look, we got $25 a month, and again, this could be cheating in a lot of people's eyes, but for some reason, the main event right now, it's like that's its own thing, and that's a gimme. You can do whatever you want with that. You could steal that for all I care. You're making sure you read the main event at DC Comics, though.
But yeah, if we would have done this and that event just started, I probably would have had it. And we do say that's why I brought it up. You always say, you have to kind of get the big events, though. People are evented out. They have the event fatigue, so we'll see. But that's that. So I'll just go. Mine was Superman, Jay Garrick, The Flash, Batman Off-World, Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, World's Finest. What was yours again?
Action Comics, Batman Off-World, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Justice Society of America, Green Lantern, War Journal, and Green Arrow.
I'm so pissed. Yours is better than mine.
I'm
so pissed, but I couldn't play it. I hate having money left.
I'm still pissed I don't have Superman.
Well, I have $3 left. I'll talk to you about it. You can come over. We'll talk about that. And I'll let you talk about every book because you have so many. But yeah, you had 6 cents left, you son of a gun. And $3. So I'm going to go buy a value meal. But that is that. Hey, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. This is, really anymore. This is something that we have done over the years and people seem to enjoy it. So we figured we'd do that here on YouTube. Let us know.
Make sure you tell us yours.
Yeah, make sure you tell us ours.
Stick to the rules.
Make sure you do the math. But you can, and really, I don't mind if you really go into detail of like, I was going to put this because that's the fun of it, is the idea of how you have to shuffle things and try to get that. But I hope people enjoyed it. But that is that. Thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.